Hi guys, it's Thursday. Welcome to another week of the webinar. We are super happy to have you guys here. Go ahead in the chat, let me know where you're tuning in from. We have some special guests today that are really about to feed you guys a lot of knowledge on how to change your brand, upgrade your brand, utilizing tools that are easy to access. You don't have to be a designer or anything like that to be able to do these things. But first, while you guys are in the chat, I want to go over some house rules. So we're on the internet, guys, and sometimes technology goes crazy on us. So if you find yourself buffering, go ahead and refresh that screen and it will pop up, it'll refresh for you. If that doesn't work, always know at this link, you guys will be able to re-watch this webinar, and you're gonna wanna pin this anyway because we are gonna have we're going over a lot of things today, so you're gonna wanna re-watch, retake some notes. Also, as we're going through this, make sure you ask those questions because we are going to have a live Q&A at the end, and we totally want to be able to answer all of your questions. If we don't get to them, you can always reach out to our guests on Instagram and they would love to help you. But let's do a quick introduction. Vic and Sasha are our guests today, and you may be asking, like, what qualifies them to be talking to us about this? Well, let me tell you. Sasha used to be a teacher, first of all. So once a teacher, always a teacher. And that means they know how to communicate effectively and efficiently. And if you need to know more, Vic and Sasha are Show It Design partners. So they're like the best of the best in the industry. So they're totally qualified to be talking about this today. And they are pro photographers. And they're brand builders. They're entrepreneurs, guys. In 2018, they went full-time in their business, and that's what a lot of people are striving for. Their story is amazing, so make sure you ask them about that. But I'm sure you've heard enough from me. Let's see who we got. People from Chandler, Washington, Arkansas, Texas. Texas is always in the house, guys. I love it. Always representing. Boston, North Carolina. We have Canada. Canada's here. I think they're the farthest so far. We have New York, and we are tuning in today from Gilbert, Arizona. Nice and sunny over here. I heard Chicago just like had frost or something the other day, so I'm glad I'm not there. But super excited to bring Vic and Sasha on for you guys. So here they are.
Wow. Thank you so much, Amisha, for the wonderful introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. Absolutely.
So first of all, thank you so much, everybody, for being here today, and thank the team at Show It. Shamisha, you've been a rock star throughout all of this, and we're super excited to give you guys our little TED Talk on Canva today.
There you go. Yeah, it's something that we thoroughly enjoy using with our brands, and we hope you'll take that same away from this.
So you ready?
So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it.
So before we get into details, we should probably mention that we created our slideshow using Canva today.
Everything you see here is something we created using Canva, so it just further displays what can be done with Canva.
The list is extensive, and we'll get to that in a bit. First, we want to introduce ourselves. So as Shamisha mentioned, I am Sasha. I am the visuals and graphics behind our brand Mariposa Design Co. We are from a tiny town in California called Shafter. We're about 20 minutes from Bakersfield. I was an art major in college. I was a former high school teacher. I taught digital art. I'm a bonus mom of 2, and my personality, I'm an INFP, so I'm a little more introverted, but luckily I have Vic to keep me on my toes.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, I try my best as possible. I'm Vic, everybody. I'm the communications and copywriting for a lot of what we do. And I was a former IT technician. I'm a member of the Zipper Club, which means I had heart surgery at the age of 30. I'm a father of 2 wonderful kids, and I'm an Enneagram 2 and an ENFJ. So I'm about that action. And and I've always just writing and communicating has always kind of just made sense to me. I enjoy making the words dance on paper. It's a thrill to me to convey messages with as little effort as possible, if you will. Yes. So yeah, let's get a little further into what we're actually here for, and that's to learn more about Canva.
So you may be wondering, why should I choose Canva over Photoshop or any other app? Not to say that one app is better than the other, but we will get into Canva a lot more today. Photoshop is really robust. It's a robust program where you can pretty much create anything. You can manipulate objects to your liking. Whereas Canva is more template-based. It's great for beginners. We use it in our business sometimes. Again, not saying one is better than the other. We really love to use Canva for different things.
Absolutely. And for me, I'd like to consider it like Photoshop is just a lot more intimidating to a lot of people than Canva is. And the flip side of that coin, if you're really experienced with Photoshop, going to Canva might be a little trickier because it's dialed back a lot more.
Yes.
But we're going to help you find that balance and show you a couple of neat tips and tricks while using Canva.
The other thing, one quick thing I should mention is there are two versions of Canva. There's the basic version and there's the pro version. Not saying you have to get the pro version, but pro version is going to give you more options to use. They're going to have more images to choose from. Photoshop, you'll have to pay a monthly fee of $20, I believe, depending on the plan you choose. But Canva does have a free version if you want to go ahead and give it a try. If you haven't already, or if you're pretty proficient in Canva, either way, you'll get both. You'll get a lot out of either one, pro or basic.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a list of a couple things you can do with Canva. And although this isn't the completed list, again, you can do anything within Canva. There's a lot of things that we use Canva outside of our branding. We use it in our day-to-day lives for greeting cards. I mean, birthday announcement, graduation announcements. We use it for social media.
Yeah, social media. And the other one that you can create in Canva, if you don't have a lot of, well, say if you have a really limited budget, you can create your own logo on Canva. Yeah,
I think that's overlooked quite often, but there's a lot of potential there in creating a stunning logo within Canva.
Absolutely. So what we want you to learn today is we want to be able to we want to make sure that you're able to walk away with more knowledge on Canva so that you can apply it in your business, and hopefully you'll have more branded content that actually matches your brand.
Yeah, and although, like I said, there's not enough time to go through all of the inner workings of Canva, but we hope that at the end of this webinar, you'll be a little more confident in your skill set with Canva.
Yes. So here are just a few of the topics we're going to cover. There's so many different tools Canva offers, but we're going to touch on certain ones because we feel these are going to really help propel your business forward. So we have digital design elements. We're going to go over logo design. We'll touch on a branding board for beginners. We're going to go over social media ads and design mockups, email signatures, graphics for your show at website, and then we'll go into a live demo after our presentation here.
Yeah, along with some Q&A.
Along with some Q&A.
So first and foremost, your purpose. This is something to consider in making impactful and meaningful content, no matter where you're going to use that. What is the purpose of the content you're creating?
So one thing that we really want to hone in on is creating things that highlight your purpose behind your, what is the purpose behind your brand? We want to make sure that you're not just posting something pretty. It, of course, has to send a message, which leads us into our personality.
Yeah, so your personality is you're already known in certain circles, so you want to remain true to your personality. So with your purpose comes your personality. How are you going to share that message? And in which ways are you going to, in the manner you make that message known, you're going to create more of a rapport with finding your tribe. You're going to find the right ideal client, if you will.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you find yourself, you're struggling a bit with posting your personality, if you don't want to show too much. I mean, if that's your personality, that's totally fine. But I feel like for these purposes, you want to make sure that your personality shines through every post, because that's how you're going to attract like-minded people. Yeah,
there's so many billions of people in the world. Chances are you're not the only one that shares common interest about, even this slide right here, Friends. I'm sure there's millions of Friends fans out there. And so this message can be, you want to make sure that all of it, you have cohesiveness within any message you're sending, and the last part of that is finding the right group of people to share that message with.
Wait, which Friends character are you?
I'm definitely a Joey.
I'm probably Monica.
Here we go. I can see that. Okay, so the big three.
The 3 C's. We want to make sure that each of our content or posts, if you will, include these 3 things, which are color, contrast, and clarity. So think about the color choices you're choosing. Are you choosing something really bold? Are you choosing something a little more subtle and neutral? We want to also think about contrast. So how are you going to grab their attention? So I think of it in terms of using bold colors is really going to stand out against other posts. And of course, clarity. So how clear is the message you're sending?
So before we get into all of the design aesthetics of everything, we need to, there's a couple of key principles that we need to understand while making this content.
Yes. Let's get into typography. So typography is literally printed matter on paper, right?
Correct. And not only on paper, it's just, we come into typography so often in our day-to-day lives that we don't even have to consider it. Even from the, it's not just the prettiness of the font that we choose to use, it's the message that we're conveying using that font. For instance, think of the comfort the Starbucks name gives you just by seeing it after a rough morning, like, oh man, I can enjoy this cup of coffee, you know. That's all because of the typography and the feelings and the feelings you associate with a certain look and the brand.
That's definitely something that I have comfort in. Like if I see the Starbucks logo, I do feel like, oh, cool, Starbucks.
Yeah, there you go. And a lot of times you can associate that with quality and any other feelings you might have.
Exactly.
About a brand.
Let's go over typography terms. So we have serif, sans serif, script, and slab serif. These may mean absolutely nothing to you, but it means everything in the design world. So what we see here, so we have first serif, it's a little more blocky, it's a little more detail. Sans serif is very clean cut. Script is a nice accent font, not meant to be used for paragraphs really. And then we have a slab serif, which is kind of like a serif font, but it's a little more blocky. And again, it's okay if you're not familiar with the types of fonts. We're gonna go over how to use these fonts in how to pair them well together. So that brings us to our font pairing. So here are just a couple examples you can choose from. These are just quick ones we made in Canva. So we recommend pairing definitely a sans serif and a serif font together. Like for example, Playfair on the top right, we have Playfair and Open Sans. That makes a really nice, it just balances each other. They balance each other out. On the very bottom right, we have Quicksand, and then we paired it with the script font. Script fonts work really well with sans serif fonts because we don't have too much detail in the sans serif, so it gives it a nice contrast.
Now that leads us into font layouts. Font layouts, it's super important, not only in what we're saying, but in the manner people are able to read that.
Absolutely. So alignment is more so the space between each letter, whereas hierarchy focuses on the order in which you read something. So think about a restaurant menu, right? What do you think about a restaurant menu? Do you read the description first or the title first?
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to tell the waiter that you wanted and start describing a Big Mac. You're going to order the Big Mac because it's in the hierarchy. You're going to know, I want to go with the title first, and then you read about what's actually within it.
Yes. Very important when creating content is focusing on the title and then description if you ever need to create something along those lines. So now we have our fonts, do's and don'ts.
So yeah, again, we want to make sure the message is clear in everything we do. So as you see here, the example on the left, you have a perfectly clear understanding of the meaning and of the message that is being sent out here. Whereas on the right-hand side, using the script font, it's a bit much. There's too much going on, and anybody that's going to read that may be discouraged because it is a little difficult to read. And again, on the left-hand side, we still get that message sent across, but we also get the same. You could even make the argument we get more of an impact by using less of the script font.
Absolutely. Notice on the right side, we have the script font very far apart from each other. So the letters are not touching, and script font is meant to be welded together, if you will. So we highly recommend, if you're going to use a script font, use it for maybe at most like 3 to 5 words, and make sure the script font is welded together.
Perfect.
Another couple more fonts do's and don'ts. Try to avoid using too many fonts in a post or when you're creating content, because sometimes your message can get lost with all the different fonts you use. Yeah. Again, using script font as block text, so try to use it sparingly if you do. And then using alignment on script font. So again, make sure they're welded together. And then do make it legible. So you want people to be able to read your message, make sure it's straight to the point, because that's how it's going to have an impact.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest takeaway from this slide is it's super overlooked, but using too many fonts is definitely a mistake that we all happen to make at times. It's easy to do.
I would try to keep it to a minimum of 2 to 3, but if you have to use a couple more than that, I mean, at that point your message will get lost. So try to keep it at 3 the most. And then do focus also on the hierarchy and alignment of your post. So make sure that what you want people to focus on, your main message, your hierarchy has to be the thing that they see first, and then focus on alignment after that.
Perfect. And font absolutely matters.
Yes. Here's a note that Vic wrote me when we were dating. No, I'm kidding.
But what you can see here is what would traditionally be a sweet and endearing message can quickly turn frightening simply by the font we choose to use. So always keep in mind how this will play out in all things that you write if you're using that font, for sure.
Yes.
That one's pretty straightforward. Now we're going to jump into, I'm sure it's a lot of other people's favorites because it's a lot more, this is the meat of it here. We're talking about color theory.
Yes, I love colors. So let's go back to elementary school when we learned about the color wheel. So let's do a little refresher for those of you that are pretty familiar with the color wheel. So the color wheel basically has all the colors in one wheel, right? It's exactly how it sounds. We have our primary colors, which are red, yellow, and blue. And in between those colors, we have our secondary colors, which are a mixture of the primary colors. And depending on the color that you choose for your post, will have different meanings. And depending also how light or dark you want to go, will also send a different message. So depending on the tone you choose, just be mindful of the color you choose.
So for instance, whenever we see red, there's already a couple things that might come to mind here. Red is a very alarming color. It's a very it's a big attention grabber. It represents what? Passion.
Love, intensity. Yeah, it can also mean anger, but we try to steer clear from that. So we have to kind of use red sparingly.
Yeah, just err on the side of caution while using red, so that way we don't come off as too aggressive. So for instance, some of these logos, you probably automatically associate them with that red font, or the red color, I'm sorry. Yes. So YouTube, Target, Coca-Cola, these are all things that are just associated with red automatically.
Let's change gears here and go really light.
So
light blue.
Yeah, absolutely. Light blue is one of my personal favorite colors.
Mine
so
too.
Light blue is what message are we sending here in this color? I mean, it's definitely a more peaceful color. It's a trustworthy color.
Yes.
So that's why light blue is associated. A lot of banks like to use light blue because it conveys that trust that you can,
like Venmo or American Express.
So that way, you know that you can trust them with all of your life savings.
And of course, we have one of our favorites. Show it on the top left.
There you go.
In Disneyland. So when using these colors, it's important to note that depending on how you use it and what colors you choose to pair it with, there's so many options. So here we have what's called a monochromatic palette. So we take one color and choose other colors of the same shade.
Yeah,
so we have
shades.
have different various shades of blue here. And when creating posts, maybe think about if you want to use monochromatic palette, do you want to use a monochromatic palette, or do you want to add some color and use cool colors. And what I mean by cool is, are they not trendy, but cool as an opposite of warm. So we have green, blue, and yellow. Green, green, blue, and purple. So we're using cool shades here. Or we could go total opposite and do blue and orange.
So the green, blue, and purple were on the same side of the color wheel. So that allowed us to use them without being too overpowering.
Yes.
Or we can go to the complete opposite end of the color wheel. We have blue and orange. This is going to provide a lot of contrast, again, while also not being too overpowering.
So here's just one example, but you can use other examples. There's purple and yellow, there's red and green. And the reason they're called complementary colors is because they complement one another. They're opposite on the color wheel, so they're going to likely grab your attention just by using these two colors. Or not just these two, but any two complementary colors.
So it's a very fun, the color wheel is very fun and a very useful tool. So we would recommend getting a little more familiar with it if you aren't as familiar as you want to be yet. Another useful link is this canva.com/colors/color-wheel. Here it's gonna allow you to check out what kind of messages you're sending with your brand colors. So maybe you're sending a message that you never even realized, but it's a nice link that we use.
Yeah, definitely. So I would recommend looking up this link if you want to look up your color meaning behind your brand. So if you have purple in your brand or something, and you want to look up the meaning behind it, this would be a great tool to use. And it'll also give you other colors to pair it with, so that if you ever want to accent it with something, it's a great tool to have. Let's jump into layouts.
Yeah, layout. This is one of those things that's super important that you don't really have to think about it. You're kind of just conditioned to know it already. There's a certain flow to everything in life. We read from left to right, top to bottom. We tend to view things from biggest to smallest. There's just a natural flow to everything that we do. And our content is the same way. Just as with the blueprints of a house, we have to have order and an obvious flow of everything we create.
Yes. So how that relates back to Canva. So Canva allows you to pretty much lay out pictures, text, lines, shapes, whatever you want in any shape or form. Lets you lay out however you want. It's a blank canvas, basically. Whereas, if you're creating something, some content, they have templates to choose from. And here's just one example. We made it quickly in Canva. So notice how we have the left photo. It's a little bit bigger than the other two. And notice that likely when you saw this slide, you went from left to right. The reason that being is because the photo on the left is a little bit bigger and then kind of moves your eye down. And then you go back and read up where the text is. Yeah, and there's also a blank space, so that's a perfect way to add text. If you have a blank space somewhere in the content you're creating, it's good at maybe you add some text, and it balances everything out nicely.
Yeah, and it's not to say that that's the only way you can position stuff. Layout is fun because we can break the rules every now and again and have a lot of fun with it and still make sure that we do that in a meaningful way without losing our message.
Absolutely. And here we added a few fun graphics. We added the washi tape, which is available in Canva. There's so many things you can choose from. And we still added the text, changed the colors a bit just to give it a more dynamic look. So the possibilities are endless.
Again, we talked about this a little earlier. One aspect that is often overlooked in Canva is the ability to create stunning logos. And what we want to keep in mind here while creating a logo is our purpose. Let's not forget what message we're trying to send and how can we clearly convey that to our audience.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, just remember your purpose when creating content, because it's not just about creating a pretty logo. It has to have purpose and meaning behind it. So absolutely. I mean, again, you don't want to have the same logo as everybody else, but it is important to remember your message and what you're trying to convey.
And while working with logos, we tend to see logos in pairs, in twos or threes. We have to have at least a primary, a secondary, and an icon logo.
So your primary logo is going to be basically, you're going to use that throughout everything you create, whether that be your website,
That's the
Pretty
logo.
much everything.
Yeah,
You're
that's
gonna
the
use it
logo.
for everything.
That's the one that goes in the prime real estate on their website, right?
Yes.
This is your primary logo.
Your secondary logo is going to be a little bit used sparingly, where you have really small text to work with. So contracts are a good way to use secondary logos, things like that. And then we have our icon logo, which is mainly used for social media purposes. So like your profile photo, for example, or something that's easily recognizable. So in this example, we just took the initials and put a circle around it, but we've seen others where it's an actual icon, such as a leaf, a flower, a camera, if you're a photographer.
Anything whatsoever.
Yes.
And that icon logo, it's going to allow you to make a huge impact with as little space as possible. So it's just a little friendly reminder. Again, think of an Apple logo. If on the back of the iPhone, it's a small logo, but you know automatically that's quality because it's it's just making that.
They didn't even have to say Apple. It's just an apple.
There you go.
So here's a useful link if you want to create your own logo. There's so many to choose from. Just go to canva.com/create/logos. And like we said, there's going to be tons to choose from. You can change your colors. You can switch out fonts if you want. So many options.
That's a fun link to visit to just play around.
Yeah.
So branding boards. Branding boards are one of our personal favorites to create within Canva. If you're unfamiliar with what exactly a branding board is, it's going to be all of the 6 different elements of a brand represented in a document. So here we have one of our, actually, it's our own branding board.
So this is just our quick branding board. We've seen branding boards go into really in-depth, so such as a branding book, which has everything they need to know, everything somebody needs to know about a brand. So they have their target audience on there. They have their brand message, tagline, the do's and don'ts of how to use your logo. There's so many extensive options you can do for your branding board. But for the slideshow purposes, we just did a 1-page branding board, which consists of your logo, colors, the typography you use on your website, terminology. Think about what do you want people to think about when they see your brand, graphics that you'll use throughout your website, and a mood board. So photos that you'll use throughout the website.
And the branding board is a great reference to maintaining that cohesiveness throughout your brand, whether it be on a Facebook advertisement or an Instagram story or anything. We can use every single one of these elements to tie it all in together.
Yes. Ditto. Okay, let's get into design mockups for social media. So oftentimes you'll see, for example, you're scrolling through Facebook and you see a mockup of a computer with a screenshot inside of it. So that is considered a mockup, and that is doable in Canva. So we can take something like this, take a cover of a PDF you offer, maybe it's a freebie or something, and you can turn it into a 3D object, and it gives it a more dynamic look.
Yeah, and it gives your audience a more realistic understanding of what it is you're offering. It puts it into their mind that this is something that it's tangible at that point, even though they're not holding it, they can see themselves and how that would affect their business.
Yes. Here's another example of that. We used G. Hayes' podcast called Fostering Voices as an example. You can actually turn it into, so you take a screenshot of your phone, right? And then when you upload it to Canva, you can turn it into an actual 3D object using their smart mockups tool.
Yeah.
And it creates a little graphic like this, like a phone.
Out of these 2 examples here, you're still sending the same message, but the one on the right is way more impactful using one simple tool offered in Canva.
We can even take it a step further and create a whole graphic based on these smart mockups. So here we have the podcast, right? We have the title, we have our little hierarchy. We read the podcast first, and then we read the next line, which is listen now. Canva's extensive library, like I said, they have so many like graphics to choose from. So if you just type in Apple Podcasts, you can start adding in your little graphics at the bottom. So we have the Spotify logo as well. You can add a background to that and lower the transparency, and you've got a complete
Canva
some amazing
graphic. Content for sure.
Yeah.
And again, you can see all of this coming together already. Sasha mentioned we have our hierarchy, our alignments there. Everything is being utilized to make one impactful piece of content. I mean, one piece
Yes.
of content.
Let's jump into creating a show-stopping social media ad. So we talked about creating smart objects. Now let's take that even further and create a social media ad.
Again, let's not forget our personality and the voice we're going to use to share that message with your target audience. It's going to be something we always go back to.
Yes.
Purpose and personality are going to be at the core of all that you share and you create, because it's all one brand.
So here's just an example of a quick social media ad we made. So think about the voice that you're using and the message you're sending. So here we have a really bright image, and then we have the block text on the left side aligned to the left. It's just a quick, simple social media ad.
Absolutely.
Very simplistic and minimal.
So it's technically sound. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this ad whatsoever, but is it really sending the message that, hey, let's say I'm a fun photographer? It's a little on the more
neutral.
Safe side.
Yeah, very neutral, definitely. If this was me critiquing this, I would probably change the picture out for something a little more fun. If you're a fun brand, I would probably use different text, make it more blocky, or maybe find a fun font, like maybe use a script font or something for something like the subheading. Things like that make a huge difference.
You're saying people don't associate cacti with fun?
I mean, it depends. It depends who you're talking to. And here's a really fun advertisement, right? You love to paint. So it's going to grab your attention. It's really colorful. We have our complementary colors. It grabs your attention with the graphics we used. You're automatically going to be reading, okay, I want to know about this painting workshop, right?
Yeah,
you got a puppy. Yeah. Can't say no to that puppy, so you got to go.
You're definitely more inclined to immerse yourself in this advertisement because it's a lot more fun. It shares, oh, wow, love to paint. Well, you're immediately grabbing their attention. Well, of course I love to paint. And then we used a lot of the graphics to really dive deeper in this ad and to.
Yeah, and Canva does have also so many paintbrush strokes. We see that all the time. Where there's so many to choose from. So just gives it a more fun feel, I think.
Again, mainly with this example, we just want to show you it's okay to be really bold and to add fun elements to any content that you're creating.
Absolutely. Canva has this really cool tool called the RESIZE tool. Those of you that have never used Canva before. So we basically take what we have here on the left side, and you can resize it depending on where you're going to post it. So different posts work really well on different platforms. So for example, the middle and right one work really well on Instagram stories because it takes up the whole screen. Whereas the left one works better as the Instagram feed image. So we use a square image versus a rectangle.
Yeah, so the resizing tool is an amazing way to make that impact a lot more meaningful. So that way you can share it in the way, and you can share it in a way where it was meant to be seen.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is, I mean, it doesn't do the resizing for you. You'll still have to go in there and change each element so that it fits perfectly, but it's super convenient to do. Let's get into email signatures.
Email signatures. So there's a couple must-haves for your email signatures. I'm sure everybody's fully aware that you're gonna have a photo. You're gonna share who you are.
Yeah, your name, obviously, your title.
How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, how can they get a hold of you? Social links.
There's a lot we can do within Canva to really personalize your email signatures.
I love the frames tool option in Canva. There's it's called the frames tool option, and it basically gives your photo a more interesting effect, because often we see a square image, right? We'll see a square image in an email signature. One way to change that is use the frames tool option, give you more depth.
Yeah, more depth. It's definitely it's gonna add that extra oomph to your email signature. So you might not, I mean, it's not necessarily going to be the biggest difference in the world, but it might mean the difference in sending that message like, wow, this person is a lot more creative because they even took time to ensure that their email signature had that flair that would be otherwise missing in a just standard email signature.
So here's an example of the email signature. So we have our, of course, picture on the left, we have our name, and then we have our title right beneath that, and then the contact information, social media graphics. Notice that we use the alignment tool underneath the name just to add some more interesting effect. We also use our social media graphics below the photo. Unfortunately, with Canva, you won't be able to use the links. So the social media links will not be clickable unless you export it as a PDF. The other workaround that is you can also add each icon as its own element and make it clickable depending on the email server you're using. So that's a whole nother topic. But if you want just something quick and easy, you can use this as a PNG file, upload it as an email signature, and there you have it.
Yeah, so there's our finished product, and it's a lot more attention grabbing than just a basic text email signature.
And just so you guys know, this is not our email signature. This is just for the slideshow purposes. Graphics for your website.
So this is one of the biggest aspects of, or the biggest benefits of Canva is we can create so much content for our website using a lot of elements that Canva offers.
So if you want to use, for example, if you want to search up flowers, there's going to be millions of photos of flowers. If you want leaves, geometric patterns, shapes, and you want to add it to your website, you're going to have something that really stands out but you're going to have a website that stands out, and it's going to really show who you are through graphics. So they also have a pattern effect.
Yeah, the pattern effect is really cool. It's a fun way to, really personalize your background within your website.
Yes.
So that pattern effect will allow you to
duplicate.
Allow you to duplicate an image so you can use it across a canvas.
So one thing that I really love about Canva is you can resize it, right? So when you resize these little graphics here and you upload it to your website, you can use that as a background, and it gives your website a whole different feel. There's also the flip feature, which flips images, and you can create your own wallpaper using that flip feature. So you'll just basically duplicate the same image over and over and then just flip some of them, and it gives you another wallpaper.
Yeah, it's just the little subtle changes that make the big difference here.
And we like flowers, so we use flowers a lot through our examples. All right, now we're gonna get into demo time.
Yeah, now we can actually demonstrate this stuff.
Yeah, we'll practice what we just learned. Okay, so we hope you guys are excited because this is one of my favorite all-time topics. So let's go into demo number 1. Make my screen a little bit bigger. So the way we did this, we talked briefly about, actually, let me backtrack a bit. Those of you that have never used Canva, you have no idea how to get there, right? So this is what your homepage, your dashboard will look like. You have so many options to choose from. So depending on what you're going to design, you'll choose from here what exactly you want to create. And if you don't see your size on here, that's okay. Just go right here to the right corner, go to custom size, and you can create depending on what you're going to make. So let's go into, oh, and one more thing. So on the left side here, we have our little we have our different buttons here. So we have our brand kit. I love our brand kit because you just click on it and you can fill it in with your colors. And here's where you can discover the color palettes. So depending on what you're drawn to will determine what your brand colors are. We can upload our brand logo, so that way everything is consistent across the board.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's so many,
that consistency is key to making impactful content, no matter what it is you're making. We want to remain consistent.
So let's go to all our designs here. So let's go to, we're going to start with the demo number 1. Let me make sure. Okay, so here's demo number 1. As we talked about earlier, we turned our screenshot into a phone mockup, right? And I'm going to show you guys just how easy this is to create, because you guys are going to be blown away. I'm going to delete that. Remember how I talked about contrast as well? Notice how the screenshot it has a white back. The podcast has a white background. We used a black background just to balance it off.
Yeah, to make it pop a little bit more.
So you're just going to see how easy this is. So you'll take the image you added, and then from here, you're going to click on the photo. You guys are going to be blown away. Click on effects here at the top. You go to smart mockups here. And then from here, we can choose what we want. So let's go with the smartphone, this 13. You give it a second, and there you have it. There's your mockup. And it just takes up the whole screen, so you don't really have to do much. If you want to use this, like say for example on your website, you'll take this screenshot and you'll save it. When you download it, you'll click on transparent background. That way you can layer it over things. So that's just one unique tool we love about the smart mockups feature.
Yeah, there's a super quick way of making a much greater impact while sharing that information.
So that was smart mockup. That was demo number 1. Let's move on to demo number 2. Logos. Mm-hmm. How many of you have made a logo before in Canva? It's okay if you haven't. We're going to show you just how easy it is. So when you're at the dashboard, you click on logos. They're going to bring up so many logo options. So it's your job to pick a logo that highlights what you do and why you do it. Remember your purpose.
Always remember the purpose and your personality. You want to make sure that you're sending a clear message and you're also having fun while doing it.
Yeah. So what's one we could use, Vic? You want to try this one? So what we can do is
another flower.
Oh, another flower. I guess I'm drawn to flowers. So pretend I'm making one for our Mariposa brand. So I can do that. I can change the color here. There's, again, so many options. I already have my brand kit. I know my colors, so I can choose my colors ready to go just to keep everything consistent. This is a really plain logo, if you will. So you can vamp it up a bit, and you can choose something else that goes in line with what you want.
Canva is definitely a sandbox for to be creative.
Yes.
And so if you're in the market for any logo, don't be afraid to go in there and really just play around and see what you like about the logo. If you're drawn to one of them, what is it that draws you into it? And you can take elements from each one until you finally have a logo that represents you.
Okay, let's go to demo number 3. We're going to create an Instagram story highlight. So sometimes if you go to somebody's profile and they have these cute little highlight covers on their stories, they likely use Canva to create it. So there's so many options you can do. This is one I made earlier, but say we started off with a blank design. Let's go to the Elements tab and we'll just let's search watercolor, right? And say we want blue. So we'll let that take up some of the screen here, if it ever shows up. And you can actually title your covers with some text. So say you want to talk about reviews, and you can, resize it how you need to. You can change the colors on the text. Some elements will let you change colors. So like pictures like these, you really can't change the color much, but if you choose something like like let's say, for example, you don't want the watercolor. You want to do an actual shape. So what you would do is you would take a circle here. Let's add the circle. And you can change the color on that depending on what you like.
Yeah, you're going to be able to personalize it. And again, this is just going to add to that. It's going to send that message like, wow, I'm actually dealing with a professional, because you have cohesiveness throughout all of your social media or wherever you're going to share this at. It's going to add that extra flair that might otherwise be missing.
Let's go to circular text and alignment. So oftentimes you'll see something that looks like this. This is created using the circular text tool. So let's do a quick demo of that. So on the left side, you'll go to the text. You'll go to the text box. Let's add our text. So I used ours as an example. If you want a half circle, you'll have to account for that. So what you'll do is you'll click on effects and then curve. This curve tool is actually pretty new. I believe they came out with it about a few months ago, and it's truly a game changer. So if you want to do a full circle, you'll just keep adding text, and you'll keep you'll have to adjust it as you see fit. So it's a little too curved, it's a little too close together, so we can do that. We can also take the alignment tool, so you'll go to spacing here, and we'll go to letter spacing and put a little closer together. So there's just a quick example of the circular text. Another cool thing about the alignment tool, so let's do the quick alignment tool here. So let's say we want this to be a little bit more aligned. We'll just take we'll highlight what we want aligned, and then we'll just space it out a little further apart, depending on how far. I do like to use it for subheadings. I think it adds a really interesting effect. I probably wouldn't add it to titles or the paragraph, because once you add it to the paragraph, watch what happens. It just gets way too complicated at that point. You don't want to do it to where you kind of lose your message. So that is the circular text and alignment tool. Also the hierarchy, notice that you read this first likely, the title.
Yeah, it's all coming back full circle.
Yeah. So again, it's everything we talked about.
So now for demo number 5.
Our last demo of our webinar here. So as you can see, there's so many things you can do in Canva. Let's try to hone it back to a social media ad. So when making social media ads, it's cool to add different types of graphics, if you will. Mm-hmm. So here we have our picture. We use the eraser tool in Canva to erase the background, and you can pretty much change the color of the background to whatever you want. And you can make an effective marketing tool here using the transparency. So let's go ahead and I'll show you guys a quick demo of this one. So I'm going to go to photos here. Let's use this photo as an example. So what you'll do is you'll click on the photo, click on effects, and then you're going to go to background remover. So just one click and it's going to remove the background for you. Let's see how well Canva does. Sometimes you'll have to go in there and use the eraser tool. But that's, it's pretty rare for it to do that. Oh, there, it did all of it actually. So what you'll do is you can totally, you can layer things together. You can start adding shapes. So let's add a swirl to this. I don't know, I just thought it swirls. And you can have it take up the background if you want. You can position it to the front if you want. I'm going to leave it in the back. And then at that point, you can start adding your text that you want. So there's so many options, like we said. Let's add a color, make it really fun and creative. So again, you can use your own photos for this, for the tool. It's like, I didn't think it'd be that accurate, but it was pretty accurate.
It was pretty spot on.
Yeah, that one was pretty spot on. This one, it did it pretty well, except I could still see the desk here, which is fine. It mainly does its job of removing the background. So yeah. Make sure you choose an image that will stand out against, it'll stand on its own.
I completely agree. Yeah, and that's a fun way to make really. This could be used for anything. I mean, immediately right off the bat, it looks like a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, so there's so many different uses for this type of ad or this type of content. But just play around in it. If you're brand new to Canva, don't be afraid to get your feet wet and then see what you like about it and how you can utilize that. Even just taking away the background would be, I mean, that's
very effective.
It's super effective.
Effective marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to take I'm going to show you guys some more really quick, some tools. So here's the resize tool at the very top. Like we talked about earlier, you can change it to whatever you want, depending on where you're going to post it. So there's a ton to choose from. And then there's also this really cool tool I wanted to show you guys. So I know sometimes, like, if, say, for example, you're going to offer an online course or you want to share a screenshot of something. One way to do that is I'll take a photo. So let's pick an iPhone, right? Let's choose this one. We want to make sure it'll take up the whole screen though for this quick little demo. I just thought of this right now. Let's see. Okay, so we have our phone. We'll go to our uploads and then we'll go to our, let's see. Let's go to videos here. You'll take your screenshot here that you uploaded, and then if it wants to turn here. So this is our video that we took earlier. You'll just kind of lay it over the phone, and it's a screenshot of a phone actually scrolling through the website. So you can actually save it as a video and upload it that way. When you post to social media, when you post videos to social media, you'll be able to see the views that you get, and it's a really effective marketing tool you can use. Fortunately, I wasn't able to get this going. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. So what'll happen is it'll look something like this, right? This is probably a sloppy example, but you get the idea.
You get the picture.
Yeah, you can actually save this as a video and post it on your Instagram.
Yeah, it's a super effective way to add depth to anything you're working with.
Yeah, and I probably won't use this as an example because look how the screenshot just kind of goes over the phone. Yeah. So that's pretty much all our demos for today. We're going to jump into Q&A and answer any questions you guys have. So let's hop on here and see. Let's see. Stop sharing.
Hello. You guys have like converted so many people over to Canva right now. There's people are in the chat just like minds blown with what you've presented today. But we have had a ton of questions, so we're just gonna hop right into it. Okay. So we have a question from Happy Hour Virtual Assistant, and I actually believe she's from Canada asking this question. And she says, I agree that you need a clear font when you get to get a clear message. How do you feel using script fonts for quotes that are used more like accent pieces rather than information pieces?
Good question. I would say try to keep the script to a minimum of maybe 5 words. I would probably use the script font for more so the author that wrote that quote.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's impossible to do it. You just have to be mindful with how legible it is. Is it if you find yourself having a hard time discerning certain letters, maybe you might want to try a different script font.
Okay.
Yeah, and as long as the letters are together, I mean, there should be no issue there. I would just try to keep it really minimal because it's more of an accent. It's not really meant to be used for block text. If it's a quote, I mean, I would probably use it for the author's name or whoever wrote that. We still get the same effect. It just, you'll still get the message clear on that.
That makes sense. Hopefully it makes sense to her. It makes sense to me. Okay. All right. Next question. You guys kept mentioning purpose and person. Now this is a personal question. So you guys kept mentioning purpose and personality. And I know a lot of people sometimes really struggle with knowing what that is for themselves. So is there like certain questions that you might ask people so that you can really bring that out of them so that they can help start building their brand and different things like that?
Absolutely. Well, one thing we really like to hone in on is taking a Enneagram quiz or the Myers-Briggs test. That reveals so much about yourself that you never even could have imagined.
A lot of times it's hard to we feel a certain way about things, and it's hard to put those into words, and those tests help explain that better. And they're known for, really offering that self-realization that, oh wow, I've always felt this way, but I couldn't find the words to put it accurately. Yeah. So I would suggest using something like a tool like that. And I mean, even if you have to have that hard-nosed conversation with yourself, like, what is it that I'm trying to share with the world, and how can I do this in a meaningful way?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. Hopefully the people who are struggling with that helped them. Awesome. Okay. So we have a question from Perfect Wedding Cypress. Can you make a logo which doesn't blur when in use? Do you recommend saving as the largest file type, like 3000 px? They're struggling with this right now.
Oh no. I would hope they're saving it as a PNG file. Probably PNG is going to give them the clearest picture. Canva doesn't have an option to save as an SVG file. So I would probably try to do PNG and try to save at the highest resolution, and make sure that you're saving from a desktop, because if you're trying to save it from a phone, it's going to come out a little bit more blurry for some reason. Not sure if that's like a little bug or something, but I know for us, we try to save from the desktop of that, just to give it a clear
just to help with the clarity, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So from the same lady or gentleman, Perfect Wedding Cypress, they asked, I'm working on my website, and they're on Show It. I'm spending forever playing around with the size of the text and spacing. Do you have advice in that realm?
Yes. I would always start with the heading first. The size 30 point is a good place to start. And then maybe for the paragraph, use a size 14-ish. That'll give you a good balance there. I mean, maybe make sure it's not so spaced far apart. Talking about the alignment here. So just making sure that everything looks good. I like to align left, because people normally read left to right already, and it just gives it a more cleaner look when you align left to right.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't have to necessarily be fully committed to sticking with a certain font. Don't be afraid to play around with other fonts, because maybe just by simply changing out the style that you're using, it'll help dial back on those issues a bit more.
Yeah, and if you go back to the font pairings that we talked about earlier, maybe choose something from there, like as a starter. So maybe pairing 2 serif fonts together, 2 non-serif fonts, and then adding a script font as an accent will really help bring that all together.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not like a clear-cut answer one for everybody, but just playing around. I mean, I think that's really a key to.
I know, if you really want something really like a modern site, you'll want to use the sans serif font. Whereas if you have a more elevated, intricate brand, you'll want to use a serif font.
Good. Awesome.
So
there we go. And do you ever suggest, this is kind of like a follow-up question to that, do you ever suggest going and looking through other people's websites in basically for help? I guess you could say, just ooh, I like that, ooh, I like that, just to kind of figure out what you want for yourself?
I'd say 100%. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting inspiration from other sites.
Yeah.
Just again, that for me, I feel like that plays back into your personality. Make sure you stay truthful to who you are. Don't get so lost in trying to search for yourself and other brands. Make sure you pull elements that you like, but still represent you and can fully
something that gives me inspiration, and it's so weird, but it's really something that gives me inspiration. It's when we, for example, say we go somewhere, we stay at a hotel, I draw inspiration from their elements.
We do a lot from hotels.
I do. I try not to pull from websites too much. I'll draw inspiration from actual places. Yeah. So if I go to a hotel or something, I'll just say, oh, I love the color of that couch, or oh, I love the wallpaper they used here, or oh, I love the wording of, you know, their title, or, you know, I'll just pretty much pick out little things, and I let that be my inspiration.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Because if you're pulling things from other websites, you're going to have something like kind of jumbled, and it's not going to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of brought inspiration from the things around us.
Awesome. That's good.
That's good.
That's a great point also.
Awesome. All right. So we have a question from the Obscure Ninja. Awesome name, by the way. Does Canva have clip arts? They were asking.
Clip arts as in, if they mean by graphics, like as in pretty much like anything you can think of, they have. So in short, yes. They have a bunch of clip art you can choose from. You just have to find the right keyword for what you're looking for.
Okay.
So if you're looking for an apple or something, just search apple, and millions of different pictures of apples will show up.
There you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. We have a question from Cassie Campbell. It says, have you guys ever tried the new Canva social media scheduler? Heard it was new and was dubious, but have you you've made her a Canva believer. She wanted to let you know. But have you tried the social media scheduler on there?
You know what? I was kind of playing with it the other day. I didn't get too into it because most of what we post are photos. But I'm sure if you actually have content you're creating in Canva and use the scheduler app, I'm sure it would be useful. I imagine it's like what is that app? I think it's called Tailwind. It has a scheduler. I think it's that one, right? Mm-hmm. Where it kind of like posts for you. Yeah. I feel like for me, or for our brand,
we don't use it too often, because whenever we do create something, we already know how we're usually gonna implement it right then and there. But I can see how that'd be really useful though.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So we'll have to play with it and see how it works out.
Yeah. Ask us tomorrow. We'll be able to tell you.
There you go, Cassie. Reach out to them on social media and they'll let you know. Awesome. And we have a question again from the Obscure Ninja. Where does one find the mock phones and computer screens to clip your image into? Is that something that you have to like just search on Canva, or how does that work?
So if you want to actually clip your screenshots into a mock-up like a phone or a computer, you'd have to download another. So we use another app for that. So we actually use the Creative Market, and we'll choose a mock-up from there. Mm-hmm. If we want something embedded, like something clipped into the image. Okay. The Creative Market has so many, you'll just search iPhone mock-up or something like that. And you can actually clip your content into that mock-up, whereas Canva's more like a layover. Like you can layer your screenshot over the mock-up, but it won't be clipped into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would recommend looking into the Creative Market for mock-ups.
Okay.
Yeah, Canva's just really, it's more template based, so you're not going to have those more robust features. Mm-hmm. So the thing with if you use the Creative Market is you will have to use Photoshop for that. Okay. And that's where Photoshop comes into play. So.
Okay. So it gets a little bit more technical on that side.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. Definitely.
Okay. Awesome. So we have one last question from the Perfect Wedding Cypress. Which blank template would you suggest for graphics to use on their site? I was thinking a logo, but maybe something bigger for a clear image.
Let me make sure I understand this correctly. So you want to use a logo, like just the sizing aspect of it, or?
I think so, because they were the one asking earlier, like they're getting like a blurred image and stuff like that. So it's the same person. So I'm assuming that yes.
I would definitely say choose the custom size tool for that. The custom size tool is going to let them choose their size, and they'll be able to control that better versus using a template. So definitely create a custom size. If you're creating a custom size, I always do the 5 by 5 inches. I don't know why. That's just something I create. It's just like a square template, and I can pretty much use it for Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Awesome.
think it's ready to go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. The Obscure Ninja followed up with the mock-ups that you guys showed on your live demo. Where do they find that on Canva? Is that something that's in the the free version of Canva, or do you have to have the Canva Pro to be able to have those images?
Yeah, so it's on either one. You can find it in the Photos tab, or you can find it in the Elements tab.
Okay.
I would recommend going through the Photos tab because that's where they're going to find the backgrounds for that.
Okay.
So if they just choose phone mockup or phone flat lay, they're going to find tons of images to choose from.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that answers most of the questions. Guys, if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to Vic and Sasha. They would love to answer any of your questions. Also, I believe you guys have a free template for them.
Yeah. So we have a free branding board on our website. So it's on the homepage. It's mariposadesignco.com. If you scroll to the very bottom, we have a freebie for you guys. It's literally called Canva branding template. You can't miss it. You can download it there if you guys want to start making your own branding board.
Yeah, it's just a fun way to get headed in the right direction as far as either redefining your brand or even just starting out a whole new brand. I mean, the mood board is really the perfect place to start.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. So once again, reach out to them if you have any questions, and we will see you on the next webinar. If you need to replay this, just come right back to this YouTube link, and it's all recorded for you guys. But we will see you on the next webinar.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.